Hey everyone, it's time to preview AFL round number 14. Here I'm going to go through all the upcoming games this weekend. We're going to break down who I think is going to win and why, what I'm considering betting on in these games. We're also going to look at some stats and some betting trends of these matchups. Who's been covering, have their games been going over or under the total, and the goal is to give you information that you can literally use to make your betting decisions this weekend that will result in profit on your AFL bets. First thing, this weekend, we're seeing some exceptionally low totals. That's off the back of all 8 games in round 13 going under the total points line, and also 14 of the last 15 games have gone under the total. So we only have 2 games this week with totals over 165.5, and the highest total is 167.5. Pretty much every round this season, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but a lot of the weeks we've seen high 170s, low 180 totals, even up to recent times. So these numbers have dropped off significantly very quickly, with the bookmakers trying to adjust to the sudden drop in scoring in the AFL. Definitely keep that in mind when making your decisions. The first game on Thursday night, St Kilda versus the Western Bulldogs at Marvel Stadium. The Bulldogs $1.31 favourites for this game, minus 20.5, and the total is 167.5. So this is one of the 2 games with 167.5 total. Bulldogs have now lost 2 in a row, last week losing to Hawthorn, and prior to that losing to Geelong by 14 points. They've now failed to cover 3 of their last 4 games. St Kilda come into this off the bye, and prior to that beating Melbourne, who only lost to Collingwood in their following game last week just by the 1 point. That was St Kilda's 5th cover on the season, though they've only won and covered now 2 of their last 8 games, with those being against Melbourne and Fremantle. It'll be interesting to see how they come through the bye in this game, but I expect the Bulldogs to be winning. These sides met back in round 6 this season, the Bulldogs winning 127 points to 56 as 10.5 point favourites. The line's double that this time around. Bulldogs also won the round 6 game last season, 124 to 64. So of those last 2 matchups, St Kilda have a lot of work to do. Bulldogs have also won and covered 4 of the past 5 versus Saints, and also 4 of the past 5 have been at least 51-point margins. This matchup has a history of being a blowout. Bulldogs had one of their worst attacking performances of the season last week, just with the 59 points. Expect they get back on track. Prior to that game against Hawthorn, they'd scored 96 or more points in 6 straight games. So expect they get back close to that number. St Kilda are conceding 89 points a game this season on average, and also give up the 3rd most scoring shots of any team. Bulldogs should be able to kick a winning score here. The total at 167.5. I make a fair total for this game purely based on the stats at 180, and with 4 of the past 6 going over the total. Bulldogs have had 6 of their last 9 games go over. St Kilda trending the other way in recent times. 4 of their last 5 have gone under. But overall, on the entire season, they've had 7 games go over, 5 games go under the total. At the current number, I'd lean slightly towards the over for this game, but it will largely come down to the Western Bulldogs scoring for this to go over. They're going to need to score the 100 points for it to go over, so I would preferably look towards their team total if you're looking at a total play. Hawthorn versus Adelaide down in Tasmania on Friday night. The Hawks slight favourites here at $1.82, minus 2.5, and the total for this game is 152.5. Hawthorn have won 3 of the past 4 versus Adelaide, and Hawthorn have won 2 of 3 meetings against Adelaide in Tasmania. The past 2 times these 2 teams have played there against each other have been decided by exactly 3 points, and with the line at 2.5, it wouldn't surprise me if we saw another very close margin in this game. Hawthorn have covered the past 4 versus the Crows, and 7 of the past 8 head-to-head have been decided by a 1-39 margin. Last season, Hawthorn went over to the Adelaide Oval and won 124 to 58 in round 20, and then at the MCG they beat them by 27, 107 points to 80. So Hawthorn won both matches last season, but Adelaide playing very well this year. They've won 3 straight big wins over West Coast and Sydney, and then a 5-point come from behind win against the Brisbane Lions last Friday night. Hawthorn have an extra day's rest as they played the Thursday night game when they beat the Western Bulldogs, and that kind of got them back on track. It was a lot better defensive performance, I'd say. They had gone from conceding 93 plus in 3 straight games and kept the Western Bulldogs, who averaged over 100 points going into that, just to the 59 points. If they bring a similar pressure to this game, I think they can get over the Crows by a small margin. I'd be looking at the Hawks as the 1-39 as the potential bet in this play. You could also look at the try bet as well. Either side, 1-24. I don't think it's going to be a huge difference between the two. Expecting a low-scoring game with just 152.5 as the total for a matchup where you've got two teams that rank in the top 6 in terms of points scored. Adelaide are the number 1 scoring side. Hawthorn ranks 6th. Both sides are in the top 8 defensively as well, but they're also good scoring sides. The reason I believe this total is so low, it's nothing to do with the weather. It's fine conditions expected, low winds expected, largely due to the fact that games at University of Tasmania Stadium, the last 11 games there, 9 of them have gone under the total points line. Hawthorn, 5 of their last 6 games have gone under the total, and Adelaide have had 7 of their last 8 games go under the total points line. So all the trends based on venue and both teams are favouring the under, so I think bookmakers has put up an extra low line pointing towards that. But the matchup itself has a history going over the total. Last time they met at this venue was 177.5. So right now, I just want to do a little bit further research into this total just to try and really establish a reason why it's this low, because weather reports and everything are all suggesting it should be fine. So I'm unsure. Right now, I probably would lean towards the over, as 152.5 is a pretty low number. Like last week, the Brisbane Adelaide game was played in the rain quite a lot. That was the reason for it being so low scoring. They still got to 131 points. I think we can see this game go over a really low total, assuming everything is fine. But we'll do some further research into that later. But expect it to be a close game, slightly towards the Hawks, with it being in Tasmania. Brisbane Lions versus GWS. The Lions $1.35 minus 18.5, and the total is 167.5. Brisbane went down to Adelaide and lost to the Crows last Friday night. They can get back on track. They've yet to lose back-to-back games so far this season. Each time they've lost, which has been on 2 occasions so far, they've bounced back with a fairly comprehensive win. They lost to Collingwood back in round 6, bounced back with a big win over St Kilda. They lost to Melbourne in round 10 and bounced back with a 33-point win over Hawthorn. Brisbane have won 6 of the past 8 versus GWS, who themselves have been a little bit up and down in recent times. Like, they have won 3 of their past 5, but haven't been super convincing. Those wins coming against Geelong, Carlton, and Richmond. The Geelong win, obviously the key and most impressive win there, but were very disappointing last week against Port Adelaide. They have an interesting little patch coming up here, Brisbane and then Gold Coast over the next 2 weeks. They'll ideally need to win one of those games. GWS have covered 8 of the past 9 versus the Lions at the Gabba, and the away team has covered 15 of the past 17 meetings in this matchup. Brisbane, at the end of the day, should win the game at home. They're the better attack and slightly better defense, but there's not really a great deal between them defensively. They're the better stoppage side, though, of the two, quite clearly. Efficiency-wise, both in attack and defense, these teams are fairly even, but just home venue factor swings me towards the Lions. Do lean towards GWS keeping it close though. So I'd be looking at the Lions at probably the 1-39. Don't think they win in a blowout. It hasn't really been their style to do that this season. GWS can hang around. GWS just aren't quite at like the top of their game right now and have areas that they need to fix. There's a few injuries and stuff going on, but I think no matter what, they can keep it close here against the Lions like they've previously done in their past 9 meetings. The total for this game is 167.5. This is a total that I think is pretty accurate. I made a fair total, 166. So I think they've pretty much got it spot on for this game. GWS, 3 of their last 4 games have gone under the total. Brisbane Lions, 5 of their last 6 have gone under, including their last 3. Both these teams are favouring the under this season, but historically this matchup has favoured the over. 6 of the past 8 head-to-head going over. I think we'll see a final score with the total points combined that sits fairly close to that 160 to 180 range. And for me personally, I'm probably not going to be making a play on the exact total. I'm also looking at alternate lines if I look to go that way. Essendon versus Geelong. Geelong, big favourites here, $1.20, minus 28.5. The total is 163.5. Geelong have a fantastic record against Essendon. They've won and covered the past 7, and they've also won and covered the past 4 against them at the MCG. They only met once last season, with Geelong winning as underdogs. They were paying $2.30. They won by 45 points, 105 points to 60. Geelong come into this game after putting together 4 straight wins. They beat the Gold Coast at home in the rain last week, 61-37. They didn't score over 100 like they've done in the 4 games prior, but that was due to the conditions. Still covered the spread like they've done in nearly every game this season. There's only been 4 occasions where Geelong haven't covered, so they are 9-4 against the spread. Expect they win this game against Essendon. However, Essendon have been really making an art of keeping games close. They only lost to Carlton by 8 points last week, 18 against the Brisbane Lions. They got over Richmond by 13. They were blown out by the Western Bulldogs, but outside of that, majority of their games this season have been fairly close. I think they'll go close to keeping it at the plus 28 or less. I just don't know whether they can quite get there. I want to see lineups for Geelong. If Bailey Smith plays, that's a big advantage for Geelong. But Essendon certainly weren't bad against Carlton last week. Just Carlton was that little bit stronger. Back-to-back games at the MCG for them, though, so that plays into their advantage a little bit. I just think Geelong have too many points in them. When you look at the attacking matchups, Geelong averaging 98 points a game, Essendon are only averaging 74. And then when you go to their efficiency rankings are going inside 50, goals per inside 50, Geelong ranked number 1 and Essendon ranked 10th in that same category, and Geelong's defensive numbers are better. So for Essendon to win this game, it's going to take a letdown by the Cats and Essendon to play their absolute best. They looked a lot better with Darcy Parish back into the team last week for his return game. He'll be better for that run. So Essendon definitely moving up. I think they'll probably keep it within the 40 points to Geelong, 1-39. The issue with that, though, is Geelong can just pile on points really, really quickly, as we've seen them do, and they can also do it late in games, and you can be within a goal or two for the first 3.5 quarters, and then Geelong can go bang, 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 kick 3 or 4 goals straight away right at the end of the game, and then they'll get the cover and Essendon won't. So just be slightly cautious of that. Geelong are the number 1 fourth quarter team in the league. They average the most points, just under 31 points, and also concede the least points in the fourth quarter. And you just want to be cautious of that. You could, for this game, I make a fair handicap, 21.5, minus 21.5 for Geelong, but expect they get over the line and win. The total, 163.5. The past 6 have gone over the total between these two sides. Last time they met, it was 162.5. It's only 1 point higher than the previous meeting, which was the only game last season. That went over just by the 2.5 points. Essendon only managing the 60 points in that game. Geelong have had 4 of their last 6 games go over. Essendon, though, have had their last 6 games go under. They've also had 9 of their last 10 games go under the total. Essendon heavily favouring the under, Geelong favouring the over a bit more, the matchup favouring the over. I think we'll see. If it goes under, I don't think it's going to go under by a huge deal, assuming conditions are okay. I'd slightly, ever so slightly lean towards the over, but to take it with confidence, I'd want a lower number, so I'd need to play an alternate line in that game. North Melbourne versus Fremantle, the Dockers, $1.17, minus 31.5. The total is 164.5. And this game, even though it's a North Melbourne home game, they're playing at Fremantle's home venue at Optus Stadium over in Perth. So don't let North Melbourne being listed as the home team fool you. It's technically a Fremantle home game. They've won and covered 5 of the past 6 versus North Melbourne. They've also won and covered 3 of the past 4 versus North at Optus Stadium. They met just once last season, all the way back in round 2 in Melbourne, and Fremantle won by 26 points as $1.42 favourites. Last time they met in Perth was round 2, 2023, and North Melbourne won that game by 1 point. As $6.50 underdogs, Fremantle are $1.13 there. They're slightly longer than that this time around. Fremantle, at the end of the day, should win this game. They've won 3 straight. They're coming off the bye. They beat Gold Coast, Port Adelaide, and GWS leading in. An opponent hasn't scored over 64 points against them in their last 3 games as well, so the defense has really looked strong lately. And North Melbourne haven't scored over 63 points in their last 2 games, and they haven't scored over 71 in their past 5. It's going to be hard to see North Melbourne kicking a winning score in this game. Whether Fremantle can cover a 31.5 point handicap, I'm not sure if they can get that far. North Melbourne got a good confidence boosting win over West Coast, winning by 10 points. They have won 2 of their last 3, those wins against West Coast and Richmond though. Expect Fremantle to win. Probably would also take them at the 1-39. I think that's going to be the margin we see for a number of games this weekend. Don't think there's going to be too many blowouts. This is one that potentially on paper could look more like one. But North Melbourne do a fairly good job of hanging around in games. The Collingwood game where they lost 108-63, Collingwood ran away with that late. Prior to that, they had the draw against Brisbane. They only lost to Essendon by 3, Port Adelaide by 9. So the last 6 weeks or so, they've definitely been making games a contest. So Fremantle 1-39, the total at 164.5. 3 of the past 4 between Fremantle and North Melbourne have gone under. 4 of the last 5 between them at Optus Stadium have gone under. North have had their last 5 games go under the total. And Fremantle have had 5 of their last 6 games, including their last 3, go under. All the signs point to this going under the total. That's the way I'd probably be leaning. North don't have a great deal of points in them. Fremantle's defense is going strong. And I think North Melbourne can also limit Fremantle scoring a little bit. So this is a game where I'd lean towards under the 164.5. If it goes over, I don't think it's going to go over by much. Port Adelaide versus Melbourne. Port small favourites here off the win last week against GWS. They are $1.80 minus 2.5, and the total is 154.5. These teams have split their last 4 meetings against each other, 2 wins each. They played twice last season at the Adelaide Oval. Melbourne won by 7, and then at the MCG in round 22, Port Adelaide won by 2 points. So then if we go back to the 1 meeting at the Adelaide Oval, round 10, 2023, Port Adelaide won by 4 points. That means that the past 3 meetings have been decided by 7 points or less. Expect we see another close game. Both these teams have had ups and downs this season, and there's been moments where they've looked to be back on track and then they've fallen away again. Melbourne come into this off back-to-back losses against Collingwood and St Kilda. They're on the road here, have the bye following this. Really important game for them when they have Gold Coast and Adelaide after their bye. So probably can't afford to drop this, considering they're sitting at 5 wins and 8 losses on the season. They go to 5-9, then 2 tough matches where if they split those games, that'll be the ideal scenario. So this is just about must win for Melbourne. Port Adelaide, they're sitting also with 5 wins and 8 losses. So technically, whoever loses this game, it's probably season done for them. That kind of situation suggests to me we're going to see a close game. I think the try bet is the best betting option here. Either team 1-24. Do think Melbourne's probably been a little bit unjustifiably being the underdog. I think we could see a $1.90 handicap either way, and neither team be laying points. As in my opinion, Melbourne's just been the slightly more consistent side. Like their performance against Collingwood last week was really good. They were never out of that game. As soon as Collingwood got out to a 20-point lead, Melbourne came right back, evened it up again. They just missed a lot of shots against St Kilda. So if I had to take a side, I'd take Melbourne to win this game. Don't think they should be underdogs. 11 of the past 12 head-to-head have gone under. The total is 154.5. Melbourne have had their last 2 games go under the total. Port Adelaide have had 5 straight go under. For me to play, like the trends tell us under, everything under for this game. With the number at 154.5, probably need rain and that kind of thing to just really sell me on this going under, as to take such a low number. Generally, as soon as they get under the 160 mark, they become either stay away games for me, or I need to play the over in that situation. Such low numbers, just one good quarter can push it over the total. Similar to if you take a high total, like in the 180s, one bad quarter where there's only 1 or 2 goals totally destroys the over, because they can only score so many points in a quarter, and if there's one quarter that's the letdown, then it ruins the whole over because you're taking such a high number. Same principle when you're taking low totals. And final game of the round, West Coast against Carlton. This is also over in Perth. Carlton $1.23 favourites, minus 25.5. The total is 167.5. Statistically, Carlton should be winning. They've won and covered the past 5 versus West Coast, and they've won the past 5 by at least 63 points. Don't think we're going to see a 60-plus margin for this game. West Coast haven't, as much as they've only won 1 game this season, they've had quite a lot of games against similar, bottom half of the ladder competition. where they've kept themselves in contest. But at the end of the day, this is such an important game for Carlton to make sure they win. I don't think they're going to drop it. They'll get out to an early lead. West Coast, as in similar Carlton games all season, will try to make a little bit of run. They'll get their chance of getting it back within a winnable margin, and Carlton should hang on. I think that's how this game's likely to play out. West Coast just don't have enough points in them to beat them. They've lost their last 3 straight since their win. Carlton off the bye, just got over the line against Essendon. Let Essendon back in the game late there, but were able to hold on. Carlton right now sit at 5 wins and 7 losses. Now they have West Coast, North Melbourne, Port Adelaide, their next 3 games. If they go 3-0 through that period, that'll then move them to 8-7 on the season and a chance to make finals. So no matter what, they can't afford to drop this game. I think they'll get over the line. Look at their first half handicap as well, as I think they'll get out to a good start here against an Eagles side who's one of the worst first half teams in the competition. West Coast ranked 16th in points scored in the first quarter against Carlton ranking 2nd, and West Coast defensively ranked 14th against Carlton 2nd in points conceded in the first quarter. And in the second quarter, Carlton conceded the 3rd least number of points, whereas West Coast conceded the 2nd most points. It's just like Carlton should be on top early and should be able to go on with the game. The total is 167.5. 5 of the past 8 head-to-head have gone over. That's not really a strong trend. Carlton have only had 2 games go over all season long, where West Coast have been more of an overside this year. They've had 5 of the last 7 go over, and majority of their games this year have gone over the total. If Carlton run up a big score, we'll probably see this go over, but in my opinion, Carlton will need to score around 110 to 115 points for it to go over. You could definitely look at Carlton's team total to go over. They've scored 121, 99, 140, 152, and 116 in the past 5 games against West Coast. All games 99 plus. If they can score that again in this game, they should clear their team total. So that's the way that I'd probably be looking at playing it. Their efficiency going inside 50 in terms of scoring shots ranks 18th, but they're going against the side that give up the most scoring shots per inside 50. So we'll get a good guideline of where Carlton's forward line is at. If they can't generate a high percentage of scoring shots per inside 50 in this game, then it's definitely not ideal for them against the better sides moving forward through the rest of the season. They've had the game off their bye, should be back right towards their best, having had that run last week. That's right now how I'm looking at playing AFL round number 14. We're going really well this season, sitting at right on the 60% strike rate with all our bets. If you want to follow along with the selections, a link to that is in the description. Plus, you get to use all the Bet Finder tools to research and analyze teams and games and player props, everything you need to make the best possible betting decisions. Thanks guys for watching, and good luck with all your bets this weekend. I'll see you in the next video.